Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Human nature seems to be, or is, that humans tend to like speciality. And when something is special, then you appreciate it more, even though it's less significant. So for example, somebody wrote to Hakim Mawlana Sharif rahmatullah alayh, that I feel more enjoyment in tahajjud than I feel in Fajr Salah. Even if Fajr Salah is farad and tahajjud is nafil. So because aqlan should keep that, change that concept. But remember, the Fajr is more important than tahajjud. But the reason you feel this is because in tahajjud is that not everybody is praying it. Because you're given tawfiq to pray it, then that's why it feels a bit better. So sometimes when something is very, very common, you don't appreciate it even though it's the most useful and the best thing. For example, water is the most important drink, liquid, and it's the most beneficial. But you just think, oh, it's normal, so you don't think, what should I have to drink water? Think, oh, that's too boring, or something special, even though everything else is secondary in terms of the benefits of it. Similarly, sometimes in ibadah, the same thing happens as well. The most important, the most beneficial, that slips our mind. And something else which is much less value, it's you tend to go towards that. So one lady, she wrote to Hakim Sabah rahmatullahi alayhi, and he said, I read this dua and then I read this word and I say Ya Fulan, and I read make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yeah, this many times after Ishan, to make my dua get accepted. For him. So Hakim Sabah rahmatullahi alayhi, he said that in our times, our tabi'ah, we are not as strong mentally as we were before. And our siha and our health is not capable of, it's quite a long thing she mentioned here, not capable of doing all these long azkar. So simply do what you've been told by your teacher, and instead of doing all these long things, simply form 2 rakats and make dua. Yes, and Rajan Abdul Mu'id Sab, Hafidullah, he says a very good thing. He says that Mawlana Rasulullah Sahib rahmatullah, Mawlana Rasulullah Khan Sahib rahmatullah, who is a sheikh and he's the student of Hakim al-Ummat rahmatullah, Mawlana Shawtan rahmatullah. He said that before, he goes that we call Wazifah. So Wazifah is basically, you can make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala using anything. You can say Ya Allah, Ya Badi, Ya Rahman, Ya Dal Jalali wal Ikram. You can call Allah 51 times, 57 times, you can do whatever. You can make one dua, Ya Allah, Allahumma rizukni zawjan salihatan 27 times if you want. You can make it 21 times. It's up to you, So sometimes people give like a Wazifah. I just read this many times, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept your dua. So let's say you're sick, say Ya Shafi, Ya Shafi, Ya Shafi, Allah, Ya Shafi. So this is what called Wazifah. If it's within the Sharia, and there's no words of anything wrong, it's permissible. But, so he said that Mawlana Rasulullah Khan Sahib rahmatullah alayhi, I'm obviously paraphrasing, if I get something wrong, don't blame me. Don't blame the source. So he said that, people used to ask him, so he's trying to make dua, but sometimes people don't listen. So then he says, tell him, okay, just read this. Yes, a dua basically, but a particular number of times after Fajr, after Isha. And then one person came to him once, and he said, I've been reading this dua so many times and nothing's happened. Not this dua, this Wazifah. So you got that after that, he said that Mawlana Rasulullah Khan Sahib rahmatullah alayhi said that he changed after. He said, I don't give anybody Wazifah anymore. Because when you do Wazifah, like these kind of things, you kind of mentally think, this thing that I am doing is now basically binding upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will now definitely fulfill what I'm doing. You kind of have that mental approach. Yes? So you think, oh, if I read this time, it's supposed to happen, why is it not happening? When you do dua, you simply think, oh Allah, I am helpless, please, I am begging you, I am beseeching you. So when you're doing these kind of wada'if, people get this mental thing that I've done what I'm supposed to do. Are you following? I've done my job, so why is it not happening? Right? Whereas in reality, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's Hakim, He's Qadir, He has wisdom, He has Qudra, He can do whatever He wants. When He accepts it, how He accepts it in the dunya, in the hereafter, it's all up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So really all these wada'if, I think mainly just give it so that people, but the main thing is dua. The main thing is dua. Yes? Anyhow, you can make dua in Arabic, if there's an Arabic dua that you've learned from the Prophet ﷺ, which encompasses what you want. Let's say for example, you've got children. You say, Habna min azwajina wa dhurriyyatina qurrata a'yun. I just got that niyyah that for my children pies. You can make dua in your own words in Arabic, you can make your own duas in English, you can make your own duas in. The whole maqsood is that you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have a strong connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the whole objective. You understand? So the wada'if that you see in other things, so first of all he's saying that don't obsess with all these things. The main thing, if you want something, pray 2 rakats to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dua. Because number one, this is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gives salatul hajah. Number two is, this creates in you humility that I am begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you have these things that you like, these things that read this many times, people have this misconception that now I have fulfilled a duty and therefore I am bound, I'm entitled to this. And at the end, she mentioned another thing that I read, Angoli, Khaja Azul Rahmatullah, he's got some poems about death, etc. So she was saying that I read this and it makes me have a lot of effect on my heart. So she said it's very good. It's very good. But to have this condition 24 hours a day, it's not beneficial. It's not good for your health. Yes, to hard work, to have this condition every time that you're constantly in grief of the hereafter and worry of the hereafter, it's not good. Yes, you do your muraqabah of maut and you have the istihdar of death and you understand and that stops you from sins. But to have this like a continuous 24-hour grief, it's not. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they say that if you have this condition, you should lessen what you're doing. Yes, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us nasi. Like if you look, for example, when it passes away, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you start to forget. So Allah has made us. If you don't forget things, what will happen? That's what happens when people go to war and they come back. What's that called? PTSD. What's the thing? They can't forget what they've seen. So if you can't forget something, it's detrimental. If you can't forget your grief, you can't forget worry. That's why you just need to remember the death enough. Not like every single moment I could die right now, I could die right now. Imagine like for example, if you actually had that you're in jail or there's somebody else ready to kill you or shoot you, what happens? You're in the house for like 24 hours, Allah, but people they're under somebody's arresting them, trying to kill them or shoot them. You can't do anything. So if you have that 24/7, 100% awareness that the angel of death could take me any moment, you'll go crazy. You can function. What Allah wants us to remember is, remember death so much that we don't disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the chance to disobey Allah comes, then we just think, no, I could die and I have to ask Allah regarding this sin, so therefore I'm not going to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the maqsood. Then send these two questions that she gave and the answers I gave. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu.